Hi everybody! Today I want to take a look at some of the core mechanics of Phoenix Dawn Command, the new role-playing game by Dan Garrison and Keith Baker. Now, if you watched my last video, we took a look at one of the card spread categories, skill spreads, but there are two other styles of spreads that we need to know in order to play this game. So today we're going to talk about combat, and for combat we're going to take a look at our mortal enemy, the Chanter Mob, and we're going to begin by having him get in a fight with the Bidder. Now, if we're dealing with combat, our Bidder is going to start with a hand of 5 cards, and let's figure out what we need to do in order to fight this Chanter Mob. When we looked at skill spreads, we had these tiers of success that told us the target numbers we needed to be successful. Now something similar exists here, but it's a little harder to sort out. But let's make our way through it. Now the Chanter Mob has a number down here at the bottom. Every enemy is going to have a number, and that counts as the number I need to hit them at all. Not too hard to do. I got plenty of cards that are going to be able to do that. So once I hit this mob, they're also going to have a series of wound levels that represent significant hits that I need to do at one time in order to down this enemy. So doing 2 and then 2 more isn't a big deal. I could do that with a single strength card, but getting all the way up to 6 or doing multiple of these at one time is going to take some effort. So let's take a look at what we have with our Bidder. First of all, they have a combat style. This is the most important card I need when I'm doing any sort of combat thing. Attack, I can use Strength or Grace, 2 cards total. Alright, so that means when I look at my hand right here, I can spend any 2 cards. These are my strongest 2, so I could play both of them, have a total of 7. 7 minus 2 is 5. I could take one of these 5s out, no problem, and that would be pretty good. However, I'd like to see if there's more I can potentially do to this Chanter Mob, so let's look at some of our other options. I also have a bunch of traits. Now traits, again, I can add to any spread as long as I can justify how these keywords are useful in the situation. Now I am a Bidder, Reaper's Fury is what I do, so Death Wish seems like it could work very well, but when I look at this card, this is a great defensive card, so I'm going to hold on to it for the next phase. Meanwhile, Hunter, now I could say my Bidder is a bounty hunter and so is used to attacking humanoid targets, and for that I could be a hunter in this case. I attack as a very stealthy assassin, potentially. If my marshal agrees with that, then I can add this to the spread for free, beating the 2 cards that I can normally use. I can add as many traits as I want to, as long as they're justified. Now this one says it has an attack value of 5 when used in an attack spread. Perfect, now I'm up to 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. Minus 2 is 10. I can get rid of both of these 5s, and I'm going to be in pretty good shape. Is there more I can do? Absolutely. I have a series of sparks. Sparks I can use to add +1 on a skill or attack spread. I can use as many as I want. I also use them to fuel some of my abilities, which isn't what I'm looking at right now. I really would like to get this 6. And if I spend 1 spark instead of a 5, I can get that 6 out of there. Now that's something that some of the classes or schools are going to have difficulty getting to, but the Bidder is really good at damage, so let's try for those. I could also continue to spend my sparks to do more and more damage, but as soon as I'm out of sparks, my character dies, so I kind of want to hold on to those resources. Is there anything else I can do? We also have a torch. The torch represents the scene in a lot of ways. It gives me a lot of environmental effects so that I can use them in the narration of what I'm doing. So let's say the Chanter Mob. I noticed that the Chanter Mob has a couple farmers in it, and I'm going to go ahead and use these farming tools to attack them. I hit them with their own shovel. The marshal says, all right, cross that off so that no one else can use the same tool to narrate, the same environmental effect. And because I used one that's fresh, I get to draw a card. So by just saying that I'm going to attack them with farming tools, I get to draw another card. In this case, a trait called Superhuman Strength. Clearly my attack can have Superhuman Strength. That makes total sense. And it also says that when I use this card in a successful attack, I can burn 1 spark to stun the target. There are a series of conditions I can add to any enemy, or they can add to me, in fact, and that's pretty useful, so I'm going to go ahead and spend a spark in order to do that, and all of those are outlined in the Marshal's Handbook. So now at this point, we're up to 4, 7, 12, 13, minus 2, I get rid of both of these, and the target is stunned. That's a pretty good turn for my Bidder, and at that point, the turn would pass on to someone else. I would discard all of my cards, and at the end of my turn, I get to draw back up to my max hand size of 5. So what's the Chanter Mob going to do? They're going to attack in turn, and they're going to attack the Durant. Now the Durant is one of the best defenders in the game. So let's see, we're going to have our hand of 5 cards right there. Now, for these three categories, sparks can only add to skill or attack spreads. If I have to make a defense spread, they're basically useless unless there's an ability. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of them. And instead, I'm going to add in some health levels. These all represent mortal wounds that my character can take before they are out of action. And they're pretty strong. Now, my Durant has an ability, which is Paragon, and I chose this one as one of my rank 1 abilities. When I am at full health, my hand limit is increased by 1 card. The Durant is just better when they are stronger. Alright, 4 Grace. This is already looking pretty good for defending. Let's see, what is the... I don't even know what the Chancer Mob is going to do, and I have a huge hand in order to deal with this. So, this Marshall says that the Chancer Mob is going to attack me with an attack of 8. This is my target number for my defense spread, and I want to get as close to it as I can. Now, Durant Steel is my combat style, and it says that I can attack with only strength, but defend with strength or grace. I don't get to draw back up at the end of this spread. I only get to do at the end of my turn, which is after I attack, so I might want to save my strength cards. However, I also have a special ability. Each time I make a defense spread, I get to draw 1 card. So I get even another card just because the Chancer Mob attacked, and now I'm packed full of grace here. So let's see, what could we do? Well, to start off, I get to play 2 cards. These are my highest grace cards, so I'm already at 7. It's less than 8, but what does that really mean? Well, when we attack the Chancer Mob, these numbers signify kind of the damage done, and I have something similar. These wounds have an endurance rating themselves, so each one of them is basically like a 3 here. The difference between 8 and 7 is 1, which is not enough to do a wound to me. So I might be happy with that. However, the Chancer Mob might have an ability called Brutal, which means instead of rounding down like we just did, we round up, so that incidental damage actually does a wound. My Durant really wants to avoid that. So in that case, I might spend my highest strength card, get a total of 8, and beat the attack outright. What else could we do? Well, the Chancer Mob, instead of attacking with a strength of 8, also has some other abilities. They could attack with an all-or-nothing attack. Now this one doesn't deal with endurance very well. It's either I beat an attack of 12, or I might as well not defend at all. Because this is going to give me probably a condition, or it might remove a bunch of my health levels. It's going to do something specific and plot-based. So this is an important one to beat. So what can I do? Well, I could do the same thing. I could pull out an 8, but that's not enough. And if I don't have enough, I might as well not play it. So, this is going to take a look at my traits. Now I have this one, Superhuman Reflexes. Seems like a perfect defensive one, actually. Because I am so quick, I just try and leap out of the way of this all-or-nothing attack, which the Marshal says is perfect. Now this card says, draw 1 card when I use this in a spread. When I use this card in an attack or defense spread, I can burn 1 spark to draw an additional card. So right now I'm up to 9, which is not enough. Put these over here. But I get to draw another card. Oh, Astonishing Luck. Perfect. So now, this card is another trait. I can add it to my spread for free, which I can't do with any of these, as long as I say I defend because I'm lucky, which makes perfect sense. When I use this card in a spread, I may burn 1 spark to add +4 to the value of the spread. These sparks weren't very good I can't use them in this spread to add to my total, but I can fuel abilities with it. So I will totally burn a spark in order to get 5, 6, 10, 14. It's excellent. And in fact, because it's so good, there's no reason to go higher than this number. So I'm going to switch this 4 out for a 2, getting me just to 12, which beats this. And the Chancer Mob doesn't hurt me. I successfully defend. At the end of a defense spread, I discard all these cards and I do not get to draw back up. So hopefully I get to make an attack before the Chancer Mob gets to go again and potentially hurt my character. Alright, so combat is a little bit different than skill spreads, but it has some of the same ideas. Number 1, in order to make my spreads, I take a look at my combat style, which tells me the amount of cards and the type of cards I get to play for both attack and defense. Number 2, defense is harder because I cannot use sparks in order to do it. I have to look at other resources. Number 3, my cards are my resources, and I need to spend them wisely, or I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. If I ever end up without cards, I'm just not going to be able to defend, which is not a good place to be in this game. Finally, number 4, you get to draw back up at the end of your turn. Again, not at the end of a spread. So defense is a difficult sacrifice you have to make. And many Phoenixes, like Bitters, don't defend in order to get more and more hurt. And, you know, if you do that in the name of success, then you've done a good job. All right, this has been a quick look at Phoenix combat spreads. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy playing.